Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we are taking on a topic that really sits at the very core of human experience and, well, personal decision-making. We're talking about evaluating the survival of a marriage.
Right. And this isn't about minor friction or the occasional spat. We're dealing with that heavy question of knowing when to stay, when to commit to the hard work of rebuilding, and when the only healthy path is to actually walk away.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Our mission today is to go beyond the immediate pain, the arguments, the dissatisfaction, and really use your sources as kind of diagnostic tool. We want to uncover those foundational patterns, the underlying issues that truly determine if a relationship has any longevity or if it's just reached its end date.
And we really need that kind of structured approach because the sources, they immediately challenge that common idea that you have to fight for a relationship no matter what.
Yes.
The material is brutally honest. It says not all relationships are worth saving. And that impulse to just preserve things can sometimes be the most destructive choice you can make.
This deep dive is designed to help you differentiate then between a marriage that needs, a lot of painful effort, but is ultimately fixable, and one that has already inflicted some kind of fundamental damage.
Exactly. We'll be looking at the clearest signposts for when it's time to exit. And then we're going to pivot to the necessary internal self-work that has to happen before any major life change. It's all about making sure that whatever you decide, you break the cycle.
Please like, subscribe, and leave a comment. You are doing important work.
Let's start there. Let's start with the non-negotiables that the research lays out. The situations where the decision to divorce is framed not just as an option, but as a critical necessity. The sources really emphasize that once a relationship becomes a chronic source of what they call pain and destruction, the focus has to shift.
It shifts entirely, away from repairing and toward exiting.
And when you look at the scenarios they list, they paint a picture of total relationship toxicity.
Oh, absolutely. We're talking about environments where genuine safety and well-being aren't just threatened, but are actively being compromised, often over very long periods of time.
The information is really sobering because it focuses on what seems like irreversible harm.
It does. We're dealing with abuse, and the sources define that pretty broadly.
It's not just physical violence.
No, though that is obviously paramount. But it also covers pervasive emotional abuse.
The constant undermining, the gaslighting.
Yes, the belittling that just slowly chips away at who you are. And, crucially, they also bring up financial abuse.
I think that's one that people often overlook.
They do. It's that calculated control of money, preventing a partner from accessing funds, forcing them to be dependent, or even actively sabotaging their career. These are situations where safety and dignity are just completely eroded.
And the sources don't stop there, do they? They also detail how an environment of just relentless conflict can become destructive all on its own.
Precisely. Even without what you'd call overt abuse. They highlight the danger of just constant fights, perpetual conflict that makes the home completely untenable.
Which is especially critical when children are involved.
Yes, the research makes a very compelling case that children suffer immensely in that kind of toxic atmosphere, whether it's because of open infidelity or just, emotionally detached parents who are so consumed by their own resentment that they neglect their children.
So the core idea here is that if the foundation, safety, dignity, emotional peace has been destroyed,
then the analysis really suggests that walking away is necessary. It validates the choice to leave. It recognizes that sometimes preserving yourself and your children's well-being is the only ethical choice.
that distinction between, say, manageable difficulties and that kind of foundational destruction, it really grounds the decision in reality, not just pure emotion.
Yeah.
But now let's move to a part of the sources that throws a real curveball into the analysis. It's about external factors that force self-reflection, specifically infidelity. And this is where things take a challenging turn.
They really do.
The sources present this very specific, almost shocking scenario where an affair is framed not just as destruction, but potentially as a painful catalyst. They talk about cases where an affair opens a woman's eyes to the possibility of a happier relationship.
That's a complicated idea.
It is. It acknowledges that the emotional connection made outside the marriage can act as a kind of potent mirror. It reflects back exactly what's missing at home and makes the idea of an alternative, happier life feel, well, tangible, within reach.
So it's viewing the affair not as the end, but maybe as a painful, necessary piece of self-discovery.
That seems to be the angle, that it forces an immediate reckoning.
I have to admit, seeing infidelity framed as potentially promising is, It's
Yeah.
jarring.
Right.
Doesn't that risk, absolving the responsibility for the betrayal itself just because it forced a realization?
That's the question.
And what does the research say about the success rate of relationships that start that way? Are they just doomed or complicated?
That is the essential question, and the sources provide immediate analytical caution. So while they acknowledge the affair can be a trigger for change, the key takeaway is not that the new partner is the solution.
Okay.
They are very explicit that before you make any life-altering decisions, like leaving the marriage for this new person, it is crucial to pause.
You have to execute some radical self-reflection.
Right. It's about interrupting that emotional momentum. The new partner feels like the answer because they're meeting needs the current one wasn't.
But without understanding why you chose a partner who wasn't meeting those needs in the first place.
You risk making an impulsive, probably non-sustainable jump.
So this immediately pivots the discussion away from some external fix.
And puts the focus right back where it belongs. Inward.
That is the critical pivot right there.
Yeah.
The sources demand that we stop pointing the finger just at the environment or the partner and start asking some really tough questions about our own contribution to the dynamic.
Right. If your marriage feels hopeless, the material tells you to look past your partner's obvious flaws for a second and consider these much deeper recurrent issues.
And they lay out 3 crucial diagnostic questions for you, the listener.
The first one, is the problem just about my current husband or partner?
Second, or do I have a recurring pattern of choosing these kinds of emotionally draining or unavailable relationships?
And the most critical one, I think, could this exact same scenario, the same emotional landscape, just repeat in a new relationship?
Even one that starts out amazing.
Exactly. Even one that starts with fireworks.
That series of questions gets at the concept of recurrence, which is, it's the most common reason people find themselves back in therapy a few years after a divorce that they thought was successful.
What's so fascinating here is the implication.
It is. If you can look back and realize you have consistently chosen partners who require you to be the fixer or who withdraw whenever things get intimate.
That's not a problem with just the current person.
No, that's a you problem. You might be attracted to emotionally unavailable people because, weirdly, you're comfortable with that distance.
Or maybe you subconsciously seek out partners who confirm a low sense of self-worth by treating you poorly.
Exactly. If the issue is in your deeply held beliefs about what you deserve or what love is supposed to look like, you bring that map with you to the next relationship.
You essentially just swap one version of the pattern for another. You trade the current chess piece for a new one, but you're still playing the game by the same flawed rules.
Looking in the mirror and asking if you are the recurring variable, that is painful work.
Oh, it is. That's why most people would rather just change partners than change themselves.
Precisely. And that's why the research insists that to break that cycle of toxicity or dissatisfaction, to stop bringing those flawed rules into the next relationship.
The focus has to shift entirely inward.
Yes. The self-analysis has to come before the final decision to stay or go, because that analysis is the only thing that guarantees the outcome of your next chapter will be any different.
So let's talk about that path of self-analysis. Because the sources don't just ask those tough questions. They provide a strong, disciplined recommendation for how to fix it.
Which is focusing on yourself before making any final seismic decisions.
And this isn't just some vague suggestion to take time off. It's about deep, focused effort.
It really is. The material is suggesting a period of focused self-knowledge, whether you decide to end the marriage or commit to rebuilding it.
It's about building stability that's rooted in understanding yourself, not just reacting because you're exhausted.
And that self-focus is broken down into very specific areas for you to explore. They say you should start by pulling back the curtain on your core beliefs, the underlying assumptions that dictate why you choose the partners you do and why you tolerate what you tolerate.
So this includes exploring your fundamental life patterns, your emotions, your values.
Exactly. We need to understand the invisible architecture of your choices.
For
example, do you fundamentally believe that conflict is bad and has to be avoided at all costs? Well, that belief will lead you to choose a passive partner who doesn't rock the boat.
even if they're emotionally absent.
Right. You also need to actively identify what's going on with your self-esteem. Low self-esteem is so often the silent variable that dictates the minimal level of treatment you'll accept.
And then there's the crucial step of defining needs. That's so often where communication just breaks down in long-term relationships.
It's absolutely critical. You have to determine what specific day-to-day things you feel starved of in your current partnership.
Then you can't be abstract about it.
No. Is it feeling seen? Is it reliable teamwork with the kids or the house? Are you just looking for constant validation?
And are those needs realistic? Have you even been communicating them, or are you just hoping your partner will magically guess?
That's the million-dollar question. And the sources conclude that understanding these root causes is crucial because the key to solving so many of these issues, it might not lie in changing partners,
but in a much deeper self-analysis and reevaluation of the current relationship.
Once you understand your own needs and patterns, then you can evaluate whether your existing partner can even meet them, or if the relationship is just fundamentally incapable of evolving.
So if that self-analysis reveals that the core issue is a lack of boundaries, or a pattern of seeking out relationships where you have to sacrifice yourself,
then changing partners is truly just delaying the inevitable collapse.
you'll find yourself searching for the same validation in a new, slightly different package.
And we have to be realistic about the level of effort this takes. The research acknowledges that ending one relationship and building a new life, or even transforming a long-term dynamic, that takes a significant emotional investment.
Oh, it's hard work.
Yeah.
Especially if you're already emotionally drained from years of conflict or disappointment.
That's a massive emotional burden. You can't just expect to float through a divorce or a huge personal overhaul without support.
The sheer cognitive load of managing the transition while also doing that deep internal work,
Yeah.
it can be overwhelming.
And this is where the professional element becomes really non-negotiable. The sources strongly recommend seeking help from a qualified psychologist or therapist.
And their role is multifaceted.
It is. They provide crucial support to help you avoid the pitfalls of depression and anxiety. But more importantly, they are objective observers.
Someone outside the emotional storm.
Exactly. A professional can help you structure your priorities during this upheaval and aid you in mapping those internal patterns, your beliefs, your emotional triggers, those core values that have guided your decisions up until now.
So if we connect this to the bigger picture,
This support is foundational. It ensures that the change you make is sustainable and healthy. You're actually changing your internal navigation system, not just reacting to external events.
this has been such a powerful deep dive because it fundamentally shifts the perspective from what did they do wrong to what are the repeating variables I am bringing to the relationship. So the core takeaway for you, the listener, is that the initial decision staying or going is ultimately secondary to the profound self-analysis that's required to ensure a healthy future. So what does this all mean?
Well, it means that if you choose to stay, you do so with clear understanding, with new boundaries, and the self-knowledge to demand the necessary change.
And if you choose to go, you're equipped with the tools to avoid repeating the exact same painful scenario with the next person.
It ensures your new chapter is a genuine improvement.
We leave you with this provocative thought built directly on the source material.
If the recurring pattern of unhappiness lies within your choices, how prepared are you right now to identify and break that cycle?
Because even if the next person seems perfect, avoiding the pain of recurrence requires that internal work first.
Specifically, honestly exploring those unmet needs and those foundational self-esteem issues. The research shows that this self-awareness is the only true form of relational insurance.
We encourage you to seek the professional help necessary to start exploring that internal map today.
Please like, subscribe, and leave a comment. If you want to overcome betrayal, break toxic cycles, take control of your relationship choices, read How to Deal with a Love Triangle. The link is below the video.